In my mother tongue Bangla, Golpo is a curious word. It means story, a noun, and it also means conversation, the verb. I have grown up to the wonderful sound of Golpo, stories and conversations that have shaped me to be the storyteller that I am today. In this brand new season of Golpo, Stories from Around the World, me, your storyteller Rituparna, will continue to bring you stories that have picked me. Yes, stories pick me. They really ask me to tell them. They poke, punch, provoke, and push me to tell them. But before they do all of that, they speak to me, lighting up my mind and my heart in ways that only a very special story can do. And in this podcast, I bring to you some of those special stories. These are just some of my stories, handpicked and tucked in my story bag so I can tell them to you when the time is right. Are these stories for children or adults? Well, they are for anyone who has a heart beating for stories. And I really hope that this podcast helps you discover that inside you. Play this on your way to work, to put your child to sleep, to create a moment together as a family, to share an idea with your team, find a dose of inspiration, creativity, or a fresh perspective perhaps. Let these stories be your companion when you want some quality time with yourself. Like I said, you will hear a story today, and I hope it stays with you and lights up your heart and mind like the way these stories do for me. The story that I have for you today is an old Jewish folktale, and this one's called Chelm Justice. Chelm is a Polish city very close to modern-day Ukraine. But the Chelm in Jewish tradition is a fictional city that is known for people who are really stupid. And I find it an interesting contrast to wisdom tales. We share wisdom stories that are true for all times. But I think it's equally important to share tales of stupidity, because as the human race progresses, we continue to remain stupid in some matters. Is that true? Well, we'll find out in this story. So here we go. So once in the city of Chelm, there was a big dilemma. The cobbler in the city had murdered his client, and the people in the city of Chelm were very angry. They caught hold of the cobbler and they dragged him to the court. And they took him to the judge and said, "Judge, this man has killed his client and it's unsafe. He is a dangerous man. You have to punish him and you have to do something about it." The judge, being the judge, gathered the evidence. He looked at the evidence and he looked at the cobbler and said, "Well, cobbler, you've done something very wrong. You cannot kill your client. So you will be punished and I give you death penalty." Now, the death penalty was something that the cobbler was not ready for, and neither were the people in Chelm. The same people who had dragged the cobbler to the court were again up in arms against the judge. They said, No, you can't punish him. You can't punish the cobbler because there's only one cobbler in the city. If you give him the death penalty, who will look after our shoes? We can't have the cobbler dead. Now the judge looked at his own shoes and he looked at the cobbler. He liked his shoes clean, so he could not decide what to do. And he said, well, you're right. We can't kill the cobbler, so what shall we do? And instantly he had an idea. Well, we have two roofers, people who mend roofs of homes and buildings. So he said, we have got two roofers, so let's kill one of them. And that's how justice was met. One of the roofers was given the death penalty for killing the cobbler's client, a crime that he had not committed. Now, are those neurons in your head firing up? Are you looking for parallels and connections in your life? I'm sure you are, because a story does that. Whether you like it or not, it takes you back into your own life, into your own connections, into your memories, into the people that you've met, in the situations that you have been. Let me help you a little bit right here. We've all done such things. For example, we've all looked for a scapegoat, someone to punish, someone to blame for something that's gone wrong in our lives. Well, we have never done anything wrong. There has to be someone who has to be punished for what has gone wrong in our life. Number two, we've overlooked people's shortcomings, mistakes, and even crimes because that person is very important or too powerful. Someone we can't touch, someone we can't really blame, someone we cannot do without. And imagine all the times that we have suffered because that person was too big. Number three, when faced with a dilemma, we've chosen the lesser evil to make an easy choice. I read this story just a few weeks back when we were surrounded by news of massive layoffs. This could very well be a layoff story, putting the blame on a few people who were absolutely defenseless. And that's the next thing about this story, or rather any other story. Listen closely, and I'm sure you will find yourself in it. Whether as the cobbler who gets away with murder, the crowd of people who dragged him to court because suddenly you were afraid of the cobbler who's committed a crime, the voiceless, murdered client, the victim in this case, the judge on the horns of dilemma, the poor roofer who was sent to the gallows. Now you can go back and listen to the story and tell me if the story sparked your mind and heart. And did it trigger a story? I'd love to hear that story from you. Before I sign off, just a reminder, I've just gotten back to podcasting, so please be kind with me. It's a new format, a new flavor, a new intent. Please like, share, rate the podcast, share it with your friend, play it out in your car, share it with your colleague, share it with a friend, share it with your family. Every click, every play helps me put the next episode in place. Thank you for listening. Golpo Stories from Around the World is a podcast of stories that spark conversations. You will find a bunch of traditional tales in here, retold and bridged with the world that we live in today. A story grows only when it is told, so go ahead and share these stories in the classroom, in the boardroom, or in your living room. And come back to me and tell me, what did everyone say? If you like my stories and want to support this podcast, then you may want to gift a story, a little contribution to make storytelling sustainable for you, me, and others. To know more about my work, you can look up www.yourstorybag.com. I have a weekly newsletter. Follow the sound of my stories with the hashtag StorytellingWithRituparna. You can connect with me on social media. The links are in the show notes below. Until the next story, happy storytelling.